Hi, everyone. This is Sally McKenzie, and I'm the CEO of McKenzie Management, and we're a nationwide dental practice management company, and we help dental practices reach their true potential. So thanks for taking time in your schedule to be with me today, and a special thanks to Viva Learning for getting this webinar to you live. I want you to be sure and visit their website, vivalearning.com, and there you're going to find over 600 on-demand courses for dentists, hygienists, assistants, and business staff. And I also invite you to go to practicemanagementlearning.com, which is my site where you will find all my archived on-demand courses for your self-study. And this seminar today on achieving exceptional customer service, I'm happy to report, is my 60th webinar. So thanks again to Viva Learning. Well, wouldn't it be great if everyone who visited your practice became loyal patients who accepted treatment and referred others? Well, just think about what that would mean for your bottom line. Unfortunately, many dentists find it difficult to foster patient loyalty and are often left wondering why they never hear from some patients again. In many cases, patients decide not to return to a practice because they had a negative experience, and there are plenty of opportunities for things to go south, like long wait times, preoccupied staff, and inconsistent messaging could all prompt patients to call a different practice when it's time to make their next appointment. Simply put, practices often lose patients because customer service fell short. Making customer service a priority in your practice will help you to earn patient loyalty. It'll help grow your patient base and your bottom line. If you focus on providing patients with that wow experience, you won't ever think about going anywhere else for their dental needs. But what we know as a management consulting company over all these years and analyzing the business operations of dental practices, we know that poor customer service can manifest itself in any area in the practice, in any system, in protocols, and they don't have to be a blatant patient outburst or complaint about your customer service. Sometimes it's what we call the silent killer. You know, it's just a silent thing where patients don't have the energy, they don't have the time, they don't have the personality to express it. They just don't say it, and they just don't, come back. So I know you're all ready to take your customer service up a notch. So let's see what we can do about that. As consumers, we expect good customer service ourselves. And when we don't get it, we know we can hop right on the internet to the next Google search, to the next company that not only wants our business, but is willing to earn it. Now, that doesn't mean that patients should walk all over you, but it does mean that you need to make sure you've done everything that you can to encourage them to be loyal and keep coming back for their oral health needs. Consumer satisfaction is a measurement of your patient's attitudes regarding your services. Of course, the more satisfied a patient is, the greater the chance of them becoming loyal to the practice. Patient satisfaction is often measured just using a simple scale from 1 to 10. And the consensus is that patient who gives a rating of 7 or above is satisfied, while those that give ratings of 9 to 10 are the patients who show loyalty and refer others. But if a patient rates you 6 or below, they are unhappy, and they will generally fall off on your efforts to try to retain them. Forbes magazine reported that businesses are failing to create the positive, emotional experience that drives loyalty. And the key word there, in my opinion, is the emotional experience. The result is that 67% of customers have become what they call serial switchers. These are customers who are willing to switch a brand, switch a dentist, switch a dry cleaner, switch a grocery store because of poor customer service. So we must not lose sight of the human connection with the patients, because patients will remember the way that you make them feel when they come into the practice. And that takes me to the area of helping you to understand patient touch points. So the patient that you see each day, the ones that you see, they aren't obligated to visit your dental practice, even if they've been coming to your practice for years. So excuses of why not to go to the dentist are plentiful. Like, of course, the number one reason is I just don't think I need to go to the dentist. That's the number one reason why they don't go. And they have plenty of options. And they're not going to hesitate to look for a new dental home if they don't have a great experience. So it's up to you and your team members to give them a reason to stay loyal. And that starts with providing exceptional customer service. And I'm not just talking about while patients are in the practice. So it's important to focus on customer service at every touch point, from the first time they visit your website to scheduling their initial appointment by phone or email, to checking out in person after it's over. Then there are interactions on social media platforms, and something that's becoming increasingly, more common. So, for example, maybe your website is missing important information. I look at a lot of dentist websites, and it's very common to not be able to see, common to not see a telephone number or where the address of where the office is located, right on the top of the page or where it's easily seen. Or another example would be patients are waiting too long to be called back for their appointment. So addressing these issues will definitely improve the experience for other patients, helping you to grow your practice. These all represent opportunities. These touch points are what we refer to as opportunities to connect with your patients and foster that loyalty. So making customer service a priority is not an easy, cost-effective way to grow your practice. It's actually not particularly hard to deliver customer service, but the key is to focus on the patient and what they need and want from you at all stages, before, during, and after their treatment. And with a little effort, you can create a loyal base of patients who accept treatment, and, hopefully they're going to refer other patients. I want you to get to know your patients by keeping records of your interactions. And we know this, and we've known it for years, but offices still are kind of lax on this. So nobody, I don't know, you even looking at yourself, nobody wants to repeat their story again when they call back. And is it not so irritating when you are explaining what you want to whoever answered the phone because they said, "How can I help you?" Then they say, oh, I can't help you with that. I'm going to have to transfer you to Carol. You transferred to Carol, and now you have to repeat back again what it was that you said to Sheila. And it's a waste of time. It's irritating. It shows, I think it shows to the patient that you don't have your act together. So nobody wants to repeat their story again and have to provide more information if they call, or even if they've been emailing you for a while, whatever the mode of communication is, they don't want to repeat it. So having accurate records of conversations, having accurate email exchanges and so on, and crucially, keeping them so that anyone can easily access in your practice management software system, that they'll be able to see that and be able to respond to your patients as individuals and in the full knowledge of their history. That truly impresses a patient. It impresses a person. It impresses you. So patients are looking to be cared for in a personalized way. So when your practice delivers what we call personalized service, then patients feel valued by the relationship that is formed, and that ultimately builds loyalty. So when speaking to a patient on the phone, always have a pen and paper in hand to jot down what is being said, even jotting down their name, so that when they're finished talking, you can come back. You haven't forgotten their name. You can repeat their name in the conversation, and that you have heard what it is that they're saying. So the roadmap to understanding and delivering personalized service is to record details that you learn during patient interactions. Highlighting this kind of information on patients that you will treat each day is always best to be discussed at your beginning of the day meetings. It's most helpful in delivering this personalized approach. So somebody needs to be accountable for that. If it's hygiene patients, then perhaps a hygienist, or it can be a dental assistant with the doctors, whoever it is, but make somebody accountable for a certain segment of patients that are going to be treated regarding any personal notations that need to be remembered about these patients. Provide trustworthy services, and this is essential to retaining patients and getting more referrals. So promising a patient anything and delivering nothing is the surest way to not only lose a patient, but get the kind of word of mouth bad press that can ruin you. And I'm not necessarily talking about the delivery of treatment, but something as small as, well, let me call you back after I speak to the doctor about that possible option. And then you forget, you're waiting for an answer from the doctor, and the ball gets dropped and you don't call back. So always under promise and over deliver. If you promise a satisfactory solution, then go the extra mile to not only satisfy that patient, but gain their appreciation. And I want you to wow them. So their mouth is hanging open, going, "Wow, that was just great." And that's what gets you word of mouth referrals that will bring new patients to you. And even just today, the past 2 days, I had two very courteous gentlemen in my home, putting up film on my windows to cut down on the glare of the sun, coming in. And I took the dogs out for a walk this morning, saw the neighbor, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting these things up on my windows to cut down the sun. And, if you need anything like that, let me know, because I was just so impressed with their professionalism, their honesty, the work that they did. I mean, because I'd had it done previously by somebody who didn't know what they were doing. So I've had a comparison here. And hey, I started, it's really funny, I just thought about this and telling you that story, that I was not shy about doing word of mouth to try to get them more business, because they deserve to have more business. And that word of mouth is going to bring new patients to you. So your goal is to create such a great experience that patients just can't help but talk about it to family and friends. Word of mouth referrals cost you nothing, but brings in plenty of new opportunities for revenue. Word of mouth will never, ever go out of style, ever, in my opinion. It is and will be the number one way people make choices about their dentist. Be resourceful also. Resourcefulness means finding solutions when there appear to be none. And many practices have what I call ironclad policies that must be followed. Well, that's our policy. Our policy is this, our policy is that. However, sometimes a patient won't be satisfied by the practice policy approach. An employee, in my opinion, should be empowered to use his or her best judgment in making the patient happy. And everybody in the team needs to back up that employee if the ultimate objective and the goal and what happened was making that patient happy. So resourceful customer service oriented staff, okay, know that there is always a way to move beyond the standard procedures in order to make a patient happy. Resourcefulness also involves finding a solution when a solution isn't apparent. For example, a new patient is contacting the practice. She just moved to your city 2 months ago from St. Louis. She just had her teeth professionally cleaned 2 months ago. Prior to that, and she wants to make an appointment to have them cleaned at her regular 4-month interval. However, she's told that she would have to come in to practice for a complete examination and full mouth x-rays first as a new patient. The patient re-explains in so many words that she's not dental illiterate and can't this be done in coordination with getting her teeth professionally cleaned. The resourceful scheduling coordinator knows that there is a chance that she might lose this new patient if she doesn't schedule her for what she wants. So it's in situations like this that the entire team knows that what was scheduled was done in an attempt to retain this patient. And sometimes you just have to break those policies. Show lots of courtesy to the patients. Courtesy is a commodity that's kind of becoming rarer every day. If you are courteous, you know, your good manners show friendliness and concern for the other person. It takes so little to be polite, but I think it's becoming a lost art. You know, say please when you ask a patient a question and thank them for their information and take your time talking to them. Nothing makes a patient feel more devalued than being treated like a number. Use a person's name when you talk to them and make requests rather than demands, and know when to apologize. Don't get defensive. So many people will not apologize. They feel like they have to defend themselves. And that is just it's just ugly. It's just really ugly. It's okay to apologize. You know, when something goes wrong for a patient, they want to hear that you understand their frustration and that you are genuinely sorry that they are being inconvenienced. Because it takes nothing to say, I'm so sorry that you aren't satisfied, and I hope we can do something to correct this. And you don't say it condescending, you say it because you mean it. Proactive service means that you are not waiting for the patient to come up with a solution that you simply follow through on. So a proactive customer service employee anticipates the needs of the patient and follows through. Don't wait for the patient to ask you what you're willing to do. Try to anticipate the question and answer it before they can ask. If they call and say they aren't satisfied, apologize and immediately suggest some solutions. Because patients want you to take the lead. Acknowledge their unhappiness, offer a solution or solutions, and explain to them how you're going to follow through. Proactive service means that you're taking the lead. You're not just reacting to it, but you're being proactive about it, which will reassure your patients that you know what you're doing and that you will follow through. And of course, that goes back hand in hand with being empowered to do so. Don't leave the language your team uses up to chance. Develop and rehearse a list of vocabulary words and expressions that fit your practice brand perfectly, and ban the ones that don't. Equally important is to search out and destroy any vocabulary phrases that could hurt patients' feelings. For example, using the expression, "oh, no worries." That might sound fine coming from a clerk at Best Buy, but it can sound really off coming from a clinical assistant. Another example, there is no situation in which you should tell a patient, "you owe us $250. You should never ever have to say, "you owe us." Try instead to say, "Mrs. Jones, our records show a balance of $238. Will you be paying that today by cash, check or bank card?" You have to polish it up a little bit. Or another example, we don't take that insurance, or we can't do that, or those 5 o'clock appointments are booked out for 2 months. Those are all negative, negative, negative. The language you use can have a huge impact on the patient's emotions. And that's what we're trying to get across here, is the emotional connection with the patient. These are the top 10 positive words to use for great customer service. So jot those down. Definitely, absolutely, certainly, exactly, completely, quickly, fantastic, great, marvelous, and excellent. So these words, when adding any one of them into a conversation, has the potential to transform average customer service into great customer service. I definitely will make it a point to contact you the day before. "Mrs. Jones, I absolutely agree with you." "Mr. Smith, I can certainly help you with that." Or, "that is exactly right." "Joan, I completely agree with you. I will quickly run through this with you. This is a fantastic alternative. Great news, we now offer ABC. That is a marvelous choice. And that is an excellent suggestion." Isn't it interesting how many of those first 5 words on the left, first 6 words, isn't it interesting how they all end in ly? Definitely, absolutely, certainly. Those are, I think it's interesting. They all end in ly. But those are great words to use as part of your vocabulary to start to establish a great customer service conversation and a feeling of positivity with the practice. Poor customer service, as we know, can manifest itself in any system in the business side of a dental practice. Therefore, identifying weaknesses in your management systems is a critical first step in enhancing your customer service. For example, if patients have to wait 4 weeks to get an appointment, there's something not right with the scheduling system, because patients usually want to be taken care of right away. If patients are charged a money penalty for not keeping an appointment time, this is a reactionary response rather than analyzing why patients may not be keeping their appointment, especially when the practice is not interested in why or what happened to the patient, but rather they simply didn't show and it's going to cost you now because it cost us. See, patients don't like to be treated like children, and they don't like to be reprimanded. And they don't like to be penalized either, especially if they think they haven't done anything wrong. Sometimes you just need to reevaluate your so-called policies and identify their purpose, what's the real purpose behind them, and whether or not they are absolutely necessary, or if they are patient-focused. Are these so-called policies patient-focused? Because, as I said, patients do not like to be reprimanded. Another common occurrence to ask yourself is, do your hours serve your patients, or do they serve you? Of course, having 9 to 5 hours, 4 days a week, is what you want. And it's your practice to do whatever you want. But you must realize there can be a price to pay, which is limiting your availability to working patients who are working the same hours. And of course, that it takes into point the time and place that we are right now in this year, in this month, in this date, in the middle of a pandemic. So those things also bode well with just thinking. I want you to just think about those things, okay? Every single employee needs to know how to handle customer complaints and concerns. Even if handling the concern means I'm finding you someone right now who can address this, it's far better than saying, I can't help you. I can't help you. I just work up here part-time. You'd never say that's a no-no. Stay calm, stay silent, and listen. Give the patient the opportunity to say what they need to say without interrupting them. Watch your nonverbal communication, like that condescending look on your face. And be careful not to indicate irritation or frustration. So keep your emotions and your ego under wraps. And if you think of yourself as calm and concerned, that absolutely will come across to the patient. Also pay attention to your own prejudices. Yes, some patients bring baggage along with their complaints, but resist the urge to use that as an excuse to disregard what they have to tell you. Of course, taking notes, detailing their complaint is a must, and this shows that you're actively engaged in what they're telling you. Apologize sincerely to the patient for the problem if you do not feel the practice is at fault. Blame isn't your chief concern. Addressing the problem is. So tell the patient you will look into the matter and follow through on that promise. This is definitely an opportunity to shine. So I suggest that you seize the moment. If a patient has had a procedure that has the potential to have some discomfort after the anesthesia wears off, reach out to them to see how they're doing. Now, this is not a new concept. This concept was first introduced into dentistry when marketing, the term marketing became not a dirty word in dentistry. You know, so it's an old concept, but many practices dropped it from their protocol. Some never started it. The best person to do this is obviously the dentist. I think that the next best person to do it would be a clinical assistant. The hygienist can take care of his or her own hygiene patients in doing it. And I think the business coordinator would be the last on the chain of what would impress the patient the most. And it can be that the call can be made that evening after the appointment, the next day, or even a few days later. But the impact of showing that you care to the patient is the total wow effect. It just shows that you care. You know, the veterinarian office is calling me to find out how Bella is doing, you know, after her little surgery. And, you know, and I do this for a living, but it still made me feel good that they thought she was the cutest little puppy they ever had in there, you know, and that they really did care about her welfare. Some patients will simply live with pain, they'll just assume, well, that's normal, and instead of calling you, then to say, you know, is this really normal? They complain or they complain to somebody else or ask questions of somebody else instead of going to the source. So it's really in everyone's best interest that you are proactive in making sure that the patient feels they have received the best care possible. That again goes back into establishing the emotional connection with the patient. Of course, listening is very, very important. And some dental employees talk too much. They have to fill the void of silence with chatter. And I'm telling you, the patients want to be heard. They want to know that you're listening to them. They want to know that you have an interest in what they have to say. If they're shopping for a dentist, they may ask you for information or advice. If that's the case, then use that time to educate them on services that you provide. And if you don't know about the services that you provide to be able to educate, then you need to go to your doctor or your hygienist or your clinical assistant and ask for that education. When patients come to you with a complaint, don't just nod your head and wait for the conversation to be over. Really listen and empathize with what they're saying. Try to understand why they're upset and thank them for bringing the issue to your attention. Apologize and let them know that you'll do your best to resolve the issue and then follow through. Not only do you win these patients over by showing that you value their opinion and want them to have the best, experience possible, but you learn about problems in your practice that could be holding you back. If the patient is upset, use active listening. to let them know that you hear them and work to discover the root of the problem. Ask questions, get to the bottom of it, and provide resolutions. And if you say that you're going to call them tomorrow at 3 o'clock, you better set off every alarm you've got around you at 2 minutes till 3, so you're calling them. You can't forget this. You can't like, oh, 2 patients came in. No. You have to do it, because your word's all you have in life. So if you say you're going to do something, you better do it. Active listening not only builds rapport with the patient, it avoids miscommunication, because you're summing up the conversation. You're reiterating back to the patient key points that you have heard, and the patient then is given the opportunity to correct anything that you said that was not clearly understood. One of the most common barriers to good listening occurs when you hear something interesting, and in your brain you immediately start framing a reply or planning what you'll do about what you've just heard. Of course, while you're thinking about what the other person has said, you're now tuning out the rest of what it is they're going to say. So you need to try to refrain from thinking ahead and being a few steps ahead in the conversation, and that's not polite to do that either as well. Consumers generally buy from people that they like and people they can create a relationship with. So it's no longer enough to just provide customer satisfaction, having a practice filled with just satisfied patients. You must create patient loyalty, which is the emotional connection. Patients talk about customer service. They tweet about customer service. They post to social media about customer service and tell everyone they know about your customer service. So while great marketing brings patients through the door, it's customer service that will keep them there. It's easy for practices to do themselves harm by focusing too much on growth, by attracting new patients, and not prioritizing keeping and pleasing your existing patient base. That's why you see, as a consultant, 1 or 2 dentists in a practice with limited hygiene availability. This observation takes you to the fact that they have more patients going out the back door than they have coming in the front door. So exceptional customer service can actually save the practice money, because it costs more to attract a new patient to your practice than it does to keep the ones you already have. At 5 times more, in fact. So it costs 5 times as much money to get one new patient in the front door as it does just to keep the ones that you have. Another benefit of having excellent customer service is patients saying yes to treatment. So taking the time to build these relationships with your patients by providing this stellar customer service is a great way to make them feel connected to the practice. They'll trust you, and they'll trust your treatment recommendations because they know you have their best interests at heart, leading to, obviously, a boost in your case acceptance numbers. Making sure team members are familiar with the various services that the practice that you offer and can talk with patients about their benefits is another way customer service can help improve case acceptance. And that's what I mentioned earlier about, especially when you bring on a new employee, that has to be part of ramping that new employee up to the services, because you never know when any employee in that practice is going to be asked something by the patient that you want that employee to have the confidence in answering. So if patients receive consistent messaging and everyone seems knowledgeable, then the patient becomes more comfortable moving forward with treatment. Also, make sure that you communicate clearly, as it can be very frustrating for patients if your practice has inconsistent messaging. So it's important to make sure everyone is knowledgeable and excited about the various services that you provide. You know, dentists are notorious for going and attending a continuing education course on a new procedure, coming back and saying, okay, we're going to start implementing this, and not really explaining why, how it works, what are the benefits to the patient, how much time it's going to take, this is what we're going to charge, blah, blah, blah. And so therefore the employees, or it could be just one employee, doesn't think it's necessary, doesn't think it's going to work, has some kind of a opinion about it that's not heard, and therefore is not supportive, of it. They're not excited about it at all. So the dentist really needs to try to be aware of this, making sure they're getting the employees' feedback as well. It's all about communication and speaking honestly about how we feel without repercussions. So the employees need to feel comfortable answering any questions and delivering the same message. So the message is the same from all the employees. And of course, this is something that scripts can help you achieve. Doesn't mean you have to read verbatim from the script, but the scripts just kind of help you to get formulated on what your answer should be. Excuse me. Details are also very important for clear communication. If the amount a patient is charged may go up depending on what insurance covers, for example, make sure that that's clear. You don't want the patient to be surprised and irritated when the treatment is finished. So clearly communicating is critical to keeping patients happy. Another communication tip is to keep the language positive. That means never trying to never tell a patient no. No, we can't do that. No, we don't do that. Let's say a patient is interested in a Saturday morning appointment, but your practice doesn't offer that. Instead of simply just saying, no, that's not an option, suggest an early morning or an evening appointment, as an alternative. So, but you want to just try not to tell them no, because you want to get this patient in, you want to keep this patient forever, you want to wow them, and you want them to refer 100 new patients, right? So that's what we always want to be thinking about. The patient is almost always first. Then, there's a lot of things going on right now. So it's very important that you keep your cool. Now more than ever before, because your days can get pretty crazy. But it's important not to let patients see you sweat. Stay calm no matter how stressed you might be, and always take the time to connect with your patients. Educate them about their condition and the treatment you're recommending, and ask them about any concerns they have. Patients will take note if you run in and out of the operatory as quickly as possible, barely taking the time to say hello. That comes across as, oh, he's always busy. Remember, the goal is to make every patient feel like they're the most important person in the practice. You want your office to be known for providing this stellar customer service. And that kind of reputation will help you grow your practice and achieve your goals. So train team members to provide that wow experience, and you'll develop a strong base of patients who accept treatment and happily sing your praises to family and friends, because that is your objective. I want you to know that I do offer virtual customer service training. We have 16 hours of virtual live video conferencing with your personal trainer. And you can find more information at this URL down here as well. I do think that analyzing your business operational systems, however, is the best way to is to have the outside professional consultant to try to uncover weaknesses within your systems that could be perpetuating the poor customer service. And of course, one of the most common ways to for us as consultants to quickly determine if a practice is exhibiting poor customer or has poor potential for poor customer service is to analyze what their patient retention is, because excellent customer service out of a practice that has a practice full of loyal patients will continue to retain those patients as well as retain the new patients. They usually get in more new patients anyway, and they'll retain those patients as well. So you can go to this URL that you see on the slide there, MackenzieMGMT.com/cons.patientretention.php. And that's an assessment. And if you give me your numbers, I'll give you back a response. But patient retention, another way to view patient retention with the customer service is whether or not you've increased hygiene days. Of course, we can't count this year. Can we just forget about 2020 here for a bit? But whether or not you've increased hygiene days, because that hygiene availability would need to be increased if there were good patient retention and there was a healthy number of new patients that were coming in to the practice. So that's one area. Another area you can look at, and another one is whether or not your production, you've seen your production level off or decline as well. I also just completed a new book on patient retention, Growing Your Dental Practice. And this is a digital ebook, and that the URL at the bottom, /patientretention.php. You can order that book, and the link to view the book as well as forms that go with it will be emailed to your practice. And at least that's a good start for you anyway. If you really haven't looked at your patient retention before, you want to start there, because that goes hand in hand with the customer service, because those are just side symptoms that you'll see if there is poor customer service in a practice. I also invite you to go to this is another complimentary free assessment, /practice_potential.php. And if you, and these assessments, they come to me personally, and I will be happy to evaluate the numbers that you give to me. and will be able to tell you if you are missing out on revenue opportunity, which is extremely important right now, especially if having been closed down, and if you are your revenue is less than what it was last year, then it's time to see if there's opportunity there where we can get some more money into the practice in different areas that aren't being tapped the way that they should be. You can send any email to me at info@mackenziemgmt.com. It comes directly to me. This is my telephone number, and I look forward to hearing from you with any questions that you might have. I'm always here to help. Thank you so much for listening.